State-run television inside Russia is broadcasting a terrifying discussion. Panelists on government shows are casually debating launching an unprovoked nuclear strike. Their logic is entirely unhinged. The proposal isn't to strike the United States directly. Instead, they want to obliterate a smaller European country, a place they view as insignificant, like Latvia or Estonia, just to prove to Washington that they actually have the nerve to pull the trigger. But if you step away from the television studios and look at the actual mood on the streets of Moscow, that bravado vanishes. The Russian public is terrified. The war they started has finally crossed their own borders. Ukrainian drones are bypassing traditional defenses and striking deep inside Russian territory. We are seeing regular people waking up to explosions outside their apartment buildings. The anxiety is so severe that private Russian corporations are practically begging the military for permission to buy and install their own localized air defense systems on company rooftops. This nuclear rhetoric reveals the depth of the crisis. It serves as a desperate reaction from a state that has proven unable to shield its own population from low-cost, high-precision drone attacks. With domestic panic reaching a boiling point, the pressure on Vladimir Putin is immense. Hardliners are demanding a massive, decisive military response to stop the attacks on Russian soil. But Putin has run into an absolute roadblock. Beijing has openly and explicitly ordered him to keep his nuclear arsenal locked away. He cannot afford to ignore this warning. China is the sole remaining pillar holding the Russian economy and diplomatic apparatus together. If Beijing walks away, the Russian state collapses. Over in Washington, American strategists are quietly watching this dynamic play out. They see a leader squeezed tight between a furious domestic base demanding retaliation and an inflexible ally holding the purse strings. Putin is entirely boxed in. His conventional tactics are failing, his enemies are striking his capital, and his strongest ally just stripped away his ultimate trump card. This level of isolation creates the perfect conditions for a forced error. Right now, Putin's conventional options are practically non-existent. He lacks the troop numbers, the hardware, and the political capital at home to launch a massive non-nuclear escalation in Ukraine. Geopolitical risk often shows up first in the money. Millions of dollars are currently pouring into global betting markets, where participants aggregate private information and whispers that haven't hit the news cycle yet. These markets have settled on a high-confidence window. The volume suggests within 5 to 6 months, Putin's regime will reach a breaking point, resulting in total collapse or a forced resignation. U.S. intelligence tracks this timeline because it mirrors their own strategic modeling. They anticipate that as Putin's conventional options evaporate over the next half year, he will eventually attempt to bypass the Chinese veto and order a tactical nuclear strike as a final, desperate play for survival. This creates a high-stakes paradox. Washington's objective isn't to see a bomb drop, it is to push Putin toward the specific moment where he gives that order, because they believe that command will act as the catalyst for his own downfall. To launch a weapon, Putin's directive must travel down a strict chain of command. That order eventually leaves the politicians and lands on the desks of Russia's highest-ranking generals. This is the ultimate bottleneck. The military has to physically execute the launch. Those generals understand the reality of mutually assured destruction. The second a missile leaves Russian airspace, the West will respond with an overwhelming counterstrike. Even if Russia's automated systems fire back, the result is the total annihilation of the Russian state. When the theoretical rhetoric becomes a real suicidal order, it lands in the laps of these specific men in uniform. They have to decide if they are willing to burn their own country to the ground for a failing political objective. The final barrier between a launch order and global catastrophe is biological. Self-preservation among the military elite acts as a more reliable check on power than any mechanical defense system. This leads straight into the mutiny scenario. If Putin issues a launch order, U.S. strategists believe the generals won't comply. Instead, they will use that extreme, suicidal command as the ultimate legal and moral justification to arrest him. A successful coup allows the military to immediately scapegoat Putin for the entire disastrous campaign. They can halt the fighting in Ukraine and open negotiations to lift the crushing international sanctions. It's an incredibly clean exit strategy. The public stops worrying about drone strikes and economic ruin, and the West successfully neutralizes the immediate nuclear threat without firing a single shot. Which brings us back to the Kremlin. Putin is acutely aware of his vulnerability, trapped inside a tightening circle with almost no viable paths forward. If he manages to navigate a failing war, appease furious leadership in Beijing, and avoid a mutiny from his own high command, it will go down as one of the most astonishing acts of geopolitical survival in history.
If you value clarity over chaos, explore more on Clear Lens X.